Okay, once again, if somebody finds me on YouTube, they don't know who I am. I'm just some YouTuber with 1,000 subscribers, and I upload video essays to my channel. You listen to them. I guess you quote unquote value them. But in a way, it's a form of intellectualism. I had some thoughts today, and I wrote them down about ageism, and that is in the context of the intellect, the artist, value, and fleeting fame. Now, I have done videos before in the last month about the concept of value, voluntary society, intellectualism, whatever you want, and about the individual. And, I could say and redirect others as footnotes to watch those videos, but in all due respect, I think most of YouTube is a lazy, arrogant audience of middle class fools who don't make art and instead let others speak for them. So I'm going to focus on ageism now. So looking up ageism, is ageism the new racism? And of course, ageism is discrimination and stereotyping of age, which is just a number count. If we know that a human being dies between the ages of the late 80s or early 90s, then we know our existence is not infinite and rather finite. And this begs the question, what is between ageism? Is it the adult versus the child? Maybe. Or is it more like in the context of the innocent versus the consent of the guilty? That to define an adult and a kid is that an adult is always perpetually guilty, making consensual actions, and the kid is innocent, doesn't know what we're doing. I mean, we can look into this more and say that young people are not experienced, quote unquote, about the world, or is the brain's developing. And then we have natural innate functions to then have sex, commit violence, be our kind of primitive monkey, primitive people, right? And so that's why, right, after the age of 25, I believe, the line between adult and child is buried. That's why you have 40-year-olds dating 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds dating 50-year-old women. It seems to me at that certain age that I guess people are all adults, quote unquote, until someone dies. And between youth and between being old is that an old person withers away until they're nothing but a corpus as their cells slowly die, like all of us. And we all have this biological clock ticking. And that youth has so much ahead of them in their life until they shoot up a school. But is there more respect between the youth and versus the old? And is this more in the context of West versus East? Because certainly ageism exists in the West, but not really in the East. How can we ever be sure we are always perpetual students, children, learning from more experienced older teachers? If this is just an argument about how old you are, how do we know that a 30-year-old is as smart as a Harvard professor? How do I know that the 30-year-old is Christian, a giant man-child, a soy boy? We don't know yet. We don't know that. And so when people bring up ageism, this is really an argument about paternalism, about that something that Erik Erikson wrote about the psychosocial narrative, about people growing up that at a certain age of 30, you're supposed to be under liberal capitalism, living on your own, having 3 children, 1950s America, and helping people out. Well, America has been in decline. And certainly in the East, like in Japan, Korea, and China, they have more of that Confucianist respect the old people thing. And here we just hate on old people. We think old people and boomers are evil. And so we could see how this ageism is more generational than anything. It isn't based upon some liberal individualism. It's legitly based on this concept that we are judging people, we are fetishizing youth. Let me go over that. So in this slide, the far right, sadly, in the past 5 years, has youthful idols between the teenage years and 20s. And it's always like this, even in the music industry. In the corner, you see James Alsip, who unfortunately is married and has a kid at a young age before 25. Nick Fuentes, who might be a closet gay person talking to a police officer, and yours truly, Baked Alaska, with his recent mugshot after there was an insurrection that he was, all for the laughs of this postmodern irony to be at the White House. I do have a clip of me and Baked Alaska in there, and I should put it on my channel, or it's on my BitChute if you can search for it. But I've met these three individuals before. Nick Fuentes and James Allsup, they were at Countercurrents meeting, at gay white nationalist liberal meetings of punk underground stuff. And these young people, the face of white nationalism, quote unquote, they're all threats. They're all in decay. They're all vanishing. They are bad influences. And these are young people. And so in the context of ageism, if young people are really that important and they commit these atrocious acts of foolishness, then why does this matter? We can't really look up to James Allsup, Nick Fuentes, and Baked Alaska because they're all in it for capitalist clickbait fame. They're leading the so-called far-right movement into hell. And young people are foolish, and they bring that with them. And so other young people, out of mimemic Rene Girard, mimemic desire, follow these people off the cliff, because that's what other young people are supposed to do. And this is the need of paternalism and why young people are, free. And we can learn wisdom from Allsup and Fuentes and Baked Alaska. But their wisdom is, you can't judge it that the youth is in power, that they have something new and innovative on the table, because just like young women, that of like Emily Eucas, they tantalize men. They throw them off cliffs. And so this really debunks any form of liberalism in any way whatsoever, judging that young people are the future, because all these young people are raped. And I'm going to use the example of old people too, acting young. Here we have a picture of Jim Goad at a Trump rally. Jim Goad is a skinhead writer and still writes in the punk rock zine avant-garde hate style, and he's older, and he's seen a lot in his youth, but sometimes youth never goes away, and you're writing like a teenage 20-something punk rock zine writer for the rest of your life. And I guess Jim Goad could be a paternal figure, but to those young, ambitious basement show punk rocker, especially e-girls and art hoes and guys who all look up to Jim Goad, and you can't hurt on Goad because he's, I guess, a paternal force. And I also use the picture of Madonna also to the right, because Madonna, is so silly. She's in her 60s and close to 70, and she looks like a 20-something where a 23-year-old guy is going to get a one-night stand with like a 60, 70-year-old grandma. I think, what is it, the baseball player Derek Jeter went out with her? But Madonna or Jim Goad, these are older people acting like young people. And so the West has ultimately the issue of never really having paternalism. And this begs the question, what is ageism at this point? Is ageism something where we're insulting old people constantly? And the only way to cure ageism is to constantly be young at heart until the day we die and don't embrace the Heideggerian death fatal reality thing? And so we should stop looking in the context of ageism and judging people on the matter of, young people have it all right and old people are forget. That's basically a Western thing. You have to understand that both young and old matter. Again, age is just a number, but it's sad that in the West there's this fetishism of young people because they don't know any better, and so the old people don't matter. It's rather, I'm trying to get across, is that it's more of a force of paternalism. And rather it's something about queer voices. So queer voices matter, and I'm not talking about queer as in the sexual deviant or gay culture, which can intersection relate to, but queer as in the strange, the outside, the non-normative, the non-cis. A gay, Muslim, black, trans person of any age has an important voice. That person has an insight into some culture and one's own existence. This is basic cultural anthropology. Intellectualism is not some kind of linear, progressive, even Hegelian type of liberal egalitarian thought, which is shared among other intellects. And that's what ageism assumes, that at whatever age you accomplish, you belong in this group hug party. And ageism is really insulting the old people who want to act young or something, or you have to apply it as, and it's this hellish tyranny between adult and child. Whoever is the speaker, no matter what age, and at whatever age, has wisdom and insight about the world. Another thing I'd like to mention too is that you might be hearing this kind of slang among the internet or dumb so-called young people, which I despise. But the word hot takes, okay? Hot takes is a postmodern slang word to shut down sincere commentary, insight, wisdom about the world, and it ridicules new and daring thoughts as ironic and entertaining. And this is ultimately bad. So if you say, hey bro, I have a hot take, the Holocaust never happened, people are going to laugh and joke at you. Hey bro, I have a nice hot take, aliens are real. And so the hot take thing is irony, and it celebrates this kind of eclectic liberal, capitalist liberal shopping of many thoughts and ideas, and you taking them, whatever age, and you embracing it and being entertained. And so I think this hot take thing is indirectly about the speaker and who's the intellect and what we ultimately value. So back to me, and the irony is that you're watching a PowerPoint slide by me, a YouTuber, and learning value and wisdom from me as an artist. Well, my PowerPoint slides matter, and this is my expression medium for now. These so-called video essays on YouTube, on mine, and whoever you watch, of whatever age, these video essays are my raw artistic energy and atoms of intellectualism inside my consciousness and conveyed on a digital canvas. Kind of like me writing in a journal. This is my medium to the public and expresses my intellectual thought. Some do it with Final Cut Pro or some Adobe movie editor and be like Markiplier, or they either write it for obscure blogs like Talkie Mag or something like that, or they get paid doing it. It doesn't matter. Whatever. You're expressing yourself as the intellect on the podium. You learn about my life, my experience, my wisdom onto you, no matter where I am in life, and you learn and walk this path with me. As time in life is fleeting, art and intellectual thought ages as the zeitgeist dies and is born again. So it's kind of this positive nihilism, this kind of peaceful Buddhism, that we're really investing and valuing things that are ultimately fleeting. Fame is fleeting. Baked Alaska, Nick Fuentes, James Alsop, they're all fleeting. They're all going to die. And it's just going to be a snapshot for when a young person was entertaining in life, that he ultimately sees all this as nothing more than promoting one's own psychosocial narrative that Erik Erikson argued about someone's life. How do you value this art? What is it? Is value a true thing we can measure? And to go back on kind of the postmodern ranting, that how do we even value, I could be just here rambling about the injustices of ageism or what's wrong with ageism. But what is the value you're getting out of this? What is the value you're getting from Pilleater? What is the value you're getting from some obscure video essay on Sonic 3 and Knuckles? No matter how pretentious the words are, no matter how much is in it, what is the value between what you can learn from the orator and yourself? And so whoever presents, and it sounds like I'm providing a liberal egalitarian thing, and I'm saying all lives matter, but in all actuality, I'm going back to queer culture. And I'm arguing is that queer culture is an important part of the aspect of understanding someone's life. And you can go back to some of my earlier videos on the discussion between Daniel Johnson, Terry Davis, or even Chris Chan on the matter, but this is what makes us human. It makes the academic a true person who cites Chicago-style MLA, whatever, to obscure texts, to believe that the Holocaust actually never happened and that aliens are real, and to whether extent that also is the author himself. And ultimately, I provide you value that you can break away from reactionary thoughts in fascism or communism, and you become a better artist through my own value. And so, again, this isn't an advocation of individualism or liberalism, but it's a form of intellectualism that ultimately the intellect should be smart enough to worship all voices, to understand and learn what someone has to say. The gay, black, trans, Muslim person can provide you more about insight in that one's life and communism than yourself would. All you have to do is listen. You have to listen and embrace something you're not comfortable in. I'll end with this song that I like by a band called Psychosonic, which a long time ago in '93, Vox Day was in that band, and Vox Day now has his own blog and does his own video ranting and his own emporium of bashing Jordan B. Peterson. But he was in this cool cyberpunk rave industrial band called Psychosonic, and their single was Welcome to My Mind. And the song is just about entering somebody's mind, that once you enter somebody's mind, there's no going back. So I strongly suggest you listen to that Psychosonic song, Welcome to My Mind, right now on YouTube. Thanks for listening.